Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Mashup Mania, a series on this channel where I take two games and mash them together into one mega game. Whereas last time we focused on two big multiplayer titles, this time we're turning our attention to two first-person single-player experiences, both starring silent female protagonists, both involving exploring underground facilities, and both are masterpieces of the video gaming medium. Today we'll be mashing up Metroid Prime's action-packed combat and masterful world design with the mind-bending portal-y puzzle solving of Portal 2. The basic idea of which is as follows: a first-person action game designed in the vein of Metroid Prime with an expansive world, new upgrades, backtracking, and combat, utilizing Portal 2's portal gun as a mode of transportation through the world, as well as a puzzle-solving element and weapon to be used against enemies. Sounds awesome, right? Let's call it Portal Prime. We'll be trying to combine these two great first-person adventures into an even better first-person adventure, using mechanics and ideas from each to complement each other to make the final product something truly special. Now, while Metroid Prime and Portal 2 do share many similarities, there are just as many things each game does to differentiate themselves. The first idea that comes to mind is that these games have wildly different tones. Metroid Prime is a very isolated adventure on a strange new planet, where Portal 2 takes place entirely in the rundown innards of Aperture Science, with GLaDOS chiming in with her narcissistic comedic stylings the whole way.
This plate must not be calibrated to someone of your generousness.
Or Cape Johnson.
I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these? I want Spider-Man!
So our first step is to settle on a story and world that has a tone that is indicative of both of our source games. And after a few flubbed ideas, I think I landed on something that will do just that. Dim the lights! It's a cold, dark night above the starship of Shell Aaron. Totally original and not copyrighted at all, galactic bounty hunter. Tasked by the Galactic Federation Force to investigate a distress beacon on an abandoned ship orbiting a nearby planet. Shell gears up for her mission. Without much resistance, Shell finds the computer transmitting the beacon, but no other life forms are detected on board. Just as she's disabling the beacon, RID-51, or Ridley for short, busts through the windows of the space station.
It's a trap!
Shell manages to hold back the robotic menace for a time, but Ridley manages to land a powerful beam attack on Shell, enough to disable a majority of her power suit's internal systems. The attack rips through the ship and hits its main reactor. As the evacuation alarm starts to sound, Ridley escapes to the planet below with Shell in hot pursuit. After she lands on the planet, she tracks Ridley's location to a large abandoned facility. The facility is run down and decrepit on the outside, but it's anything but on the inside. As Shell enters the facility, a mysterious robotic voice starts transmitting to her helmet.
Hello, test subject, and welcome to Aperture Industries, where we unravel the secrets of the universe so you don't have to. My name is Mother GLaDOS, and I'll be your guide here in our Science Enrichment Center. We've got a lot of testing to do, so let's get to it.
As Shell ventures deeper into the facility, she learns that Mother GLaDOS is the facility's mainframe computer, and she has full access to everything in the facility and is hell-bent about keeping her here for testing purposes. Shell soon realizes that she's had thousands of past subjects that were forced to test until death. Mother GLaDOS becomes increasingly more corrupted and desperate throughout the adventure, pushing Shell to destroy this rogue AI so she can escape and shut down this horrible operation once and for all. So yeah, that's a rough idea at the beginning of the game. The entire game would take place in Aperture Industries, so we'll be able to use the super clean art style of Portal 2's test chambers that Mother GLaDOS builds for Shell, but since the facility is so big, as the game progresses you'll venture more into the forgotten underbelly of the facility, as well as venturing outside from time to time, only for Mother GLaDOS to drag you back in. This way we get the more clean versus dirty art style of Portal 2, as well as blending it with the unfamiliar natural environments of the alien planet a la Metroid Prime. So there's your basic story and world design ideas, but how does the game play? To be short, Portal Prime would play a lot like Metroid Prime in that you have a large open world to explore, with your main objective being to find upgrades to your suit to help you progress through that world. Combat would still be a big focus, having Shell using her various weapon systems to hold off various enemy types throughout the game, design-wise being either robotic enemies or hostile wildlife that have found their way into the facility. Where things differ from Prime is the mechanics of the world, as many of them are ripped straight out of Portal 2. The big one being, of course, the portal gun. With this marvel of science, Shell is able to connect 2 points in space with portals to solve all sorts of puzzles and roadblocks. She can use the portals over long distances to backtrack quicker. She can use her momentum in order to reach areas she otherwise couldn't. And she can use the portal gun to defeat enemies in all sorts of creative ways. As you progress through the game and gain new powers, you can use these powers in tandem with the portal gun for some real creative problem solving. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of that, let's talk about how the game controls. So I'll be using a Switch controller for the control layout, seeing as I feel this game would work best on Nintendo's little handheld Wonder Keen. Here we go, rapid fire style. Stop! You got your left stick for movement. Clicking it will activate the morph ball. Right stick for your camera. You'll press A to fire your beam weapons, B to jump, X for shooting missiles, and Y to pick up any objects you'll need along your adventure. Left bumper is for locking on enemies. Right bumper is for zooming in on targets. Right trigger is blue portal. Left trigger is orange portal. The D-pad is used for switching visors and for switching beam weapons when holding the left bumper. Plus is your inventory/pause screen, and minus is your map screen. Whew. Oh my god. So now you know how to control the game, let's get into the different types of upgrades you'll find throughout the game to play around with. After playing around with some of the better upgrades on the tutorial ship, you'll lose most of them in classic Prime fashion and are left with the power beam, combat visor, and scan visor to start with. Not gonna lie, a good majority of the upgrades are ripped straight out of Metroid Prime, but I did add a few Portal-inspired ones to keep things a bit fresh. All the beam weapons are here, the morph ball upgrades like the boost ball and the spider ball, the visors, the suit upgrades, the movement options, they're all here. I didn't want to change them too much as I feel they can interact with the mechanics of Portal 2 really well, like using the thermal visor and wave beam to power up a hard light bridge, or using the grapple beam over hazards to gain enough momentum to fall into a portal that shoots you to the exit, you know? Cool stuff like that. As for the Portal-inspired upgrades, you got your long fall boots, which allow Chell to fall long distances without fear of fall damage, plateable turrets to give you some cover fire or just lazily take out enemies, or everyone's favorite inanimate object, Companion Cube, a cube that could be spawned in for advanced puzzle solving. I know it's not a lot compared to the mountain of Metroid upgrades, but the portal gun more than makes up for that. Not only that, but Portal 2's test chamber mechanics will be utilized all over this game world, so at the end of the day, you feel like you're playing Metroid Prime, but with the puzzle design and mechanics of Portal 2. From your buttons and cubes, the aerial faith plates, excursion tunnels, and hard light bridges, and the differently propertied colored gels. Blue for bouncy, orange for speedy, and white to make portalable surfaces. So don't you worry, Portal's unique style of momentum and physics-based puzzle solving will be at the forefront for a majority of the adventure. The portal gun is still only able to be used on white walls, so you'll have to seek one out in the environment to use it, and each new mechanic is planned to be introduced after Chell has gained a power-up that would work well with each new mechanic. For example, aerial faith plates aren't introduced to the player until after they gain the long fall boots, as they would be death traps without them. Or in Bouncy Gel's case, we introduce it into the world before the player obtains the space jump boots, so there can be a progression of that mechanic without using a double jump, and later on using that double jump to pull off even crazier stunts. The gels are a bit special in this case, as I did toy with the idea of making them upgrades so Chell could use the gel whenever she wanted, but I have a feeling this would make level design a living hell, as players could easily abuse that mechanic to do things no tester would ever think of. So instead, after progressing enough, Chell activates the gel systems and they start to leak in predetermined spots throughout the facility. It's the player's job to find out where. But let's rewind back to that whole progression thing real quick. So here's a real basic progression model using each upgrade as a milestone in the adventure. With each new upgrade, a new part of the world opens up to be explored, and certain roadblocks you may have seen before are now accessible with the power of upgrades. You might notice on this model that each new portal mechanic gets introduced immediately following a boss fight. This was intentional. Now, this technically wasn't a big part of the first Metroid Prime, but in its sequel, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, many of the boss fights are centered around enemies who, one way or another, got a hold of the upgrade you're looking to add to your collection. The Bomb Guardian uses Samus's own bombs against her, and the Boost Guardian is a son of a bitch who refuses to die! He's very difficult, okay? And also uses Samus's own upgrades against her. I love this type of boss design, as not only does it make for an interesting fight, but the fight itself can teach you what you can do with that new mechanic when you get a hold of it. So I wanted to implement that into the boss fights of this game. E.g., the game's first boss is encountered before gaining Shell's signature longfall boots. I imagine walking into a cylindrical room with a super high ceiling and the walls being lined in spikes. You see a shadow appear on the ground before a giant mechanical turret falls from the sky. You start fighting, firing away with your power beam, but the shots just bounce off the armored exterior. Before long, he jumps high into the air with his shadow looming over you. You see 4 white walls above you, one lining each cardinal direction of the circular room. You shoot a blue portal to it. You quickly dodge the turret's attack only to place an orange portal where he lands. The turret shoots out of the portal heading straight into the spiked wall, taking heavy damage. You do that 3 more times and boom! Down goes the Longfall Guardian. A white wall becomes visible up on the ceiling above a ledge with the upgrade and the exit. The next room features another long fall down to a similar room you were just in, but there's an angled wall above the door and another exit on the opposite side of the room. Using your newfound knowledge from the fight, you shoot a blue portal on the angled wall and the other portal on the ground and shoot yourself over the gap using the momentum of your fall, which in turn will teach players about how to solve puzzles using the aerial faith plates when they reach them shortly after this fight. Boom! Organic, mechanic, introduction, gotta love it. Each boss fight would somehow utilize the upgrade it protects and therefore teaching the player what they can do with it, with 2 notable exceptions, your rematch with Ridley and your ultimate showdown with Mother GLaDOS. Ridley would be a more combat-oriented boss fight, with Mother GLaDOS being a culmination of all the different portal-y mechanics and your combination with your advanced weapon system. After defeating Ridley, you are rewarded with the only original upgrade, the Aperture Industries suit, which gives you full access to the facility, allowing you to hack doors you otherwise couldn't, including the door to Mother GLaDOS' chamber. This gives the player one more chance and one more reason to snatch up any hidden collectibles they missed before the final boss fight. Oh, did I not mention those? They're basically the same as Prime's. Missile expansions, energy tanks, power bomb expansions, hidden in the nooks and crannies of the world. You know, basic stuff. Anyway, back to the ending. Chell reaches Mother GLaDOS' chamber, determined to finally put an end to her diabolical testing. Using all the mechanics and upgrades she has at her disposal, Chell defeats Mother GLaDOS, and we have one final evacuation section that puts all of Chell's abilities to the test before reaching her ship and flying off into the space sunset. Yay, you did it. So yeah, that's my idea for a game called Portal Prime. Just the idea of throwing a portal gun into the gameplay of Metroid Prime seems like a crazy awesome idea to me, so I'm just hoping somebody will eventually make something like this. If you liked this episode of Mashup Mania, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of my latest uploads. If you have any crazy Mashup Mania ideas, be sure to leave them in the comments. This is only episode 2, so we've got a lot of room to grow. So no idea is too crazy. Until next time, deuces fam.